The situation for retailers is looking worse every single day. It has come to the point where company after company is filing for bankruptcy. They can't even afford to go bankrupt in many cases. That's a fact. Many have been unable to pay rent, which of course isn't going to snowball unless there are many doing the same thing. But now the data is showing up that growing numbers of businesses have not paid their rent, sending a warning signal that investors should be paying attention to, but as always, they'll ignore. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at what's happening with these retailers. We're going to cover the bankruptcies. We're going to look at what's happening with all of the different factors within the economy. I want to get to the real deal today. If you want to know the truth, then you got to stick with me. Let's begin. This article out of Bloomberg had a lot of detail. Default notices are piling up for retailers unable to pay rent. Thousands of letters sent to ailing merchants as patience ends. This, of course, is not a problem when you have one or two or three that are going on. This is always the case. You're going to have people, you're going to have businesses that don't pay up for whatever reason that might be. Today happens to be such a large number all at once that creates a shockwave in the system that may not be able to be turned around like they predict. Failure to pay could trigger a renewed wave of bankruptcies, and we've already seen that rise. Retail landlords are sending out thousands of default notices to tenants, a situation that could tip already ailing retailers into bankruptcy or total collapse. Think about 2019, how many businesses were going under, how many were restructuring, how many were shutting down stores, laying people off. There was an unlimited amount, and now we've gone way beyond that. Department stores, restaurants, apparel merchants, and specialty chains have been getting the notices as property owners who've gone unpaid for as long as 3 months lose patience. So of course, if you have 1 month, it happens. 2 months, it's starting to take a hit on them. 3 months and beyond is a big issue. These businesses and of course the landlords don't operate on big reserves and so on. Everybody's running up to the edge. That goes for the average person. That goes for the businesses as well. They're going to push their leverage. They're going to maximize their debt. Why? Because they want to maximize their profits. It's just like the average retail investor. They never hedge their bets. They never diversify because they figure, well, why not? This, of course, presents itself at some point in the future. Nobody knows. But right now, today, we're seeing some major changes. Pressure from default notices and follow-up actions like locking up stores or terminating leases were cited in the bankruptcies. They mentioned a few here. They stopped paying their rent. Their stores had to be shut down, gambling that they could hold onto some cash before the landlords demanded payment. Not good for so many of these businesses, not just the owners of them, but of course, the people working in these different jobs. This chart right here is just showing you mall landlords received just a quarter of the expected April rent payments. So this one is the key to watch. You got to look at what's happening, of course, all around the average individual. Many of them haven't been able to pay or only paid a partial amount, but the percentages are certainly higher. But look at what's going on with the malls. These different retailers are just taking a beating now, and this is 2020. Think about 2019. I always put this into perspective because I constantly hear these silly memes coming back around. Well, you know what? It's just temporary. It's just a few months. And as soon as they open up, everything's going to be a-okay. But ask these different businesses what they think about. Are they sitting around saying, well, as soon as we open up, we're going to be just fine? Of course not. Like I said, some of them are actually too broke to go bankrupt, to go through the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It's not going to work for them. Many will just have to completely shut down. The stakes are enormous and landlords are suffering too. An estimated $7.4 billion in rent for April hasn't been paid, or about 45% of what's owed. This is so big, and I don't think most investors have got the memo. US shopping mall vacancy rate sets new record. This was largely expected to happen at some point, but it's happened in an accelerated fashion. You saw the same pattern occur during the financial crisis, of course, as people were worried about their jobs, the income, the situation, what's going to happen. So many businesses went under. That started to reverse trend after the next few years, but ultimately we've seen it go to a record high as a result. There are many factors here that I like to look at. The businesses themselves, this is key. They're closing down, they're shutting the stores, they employ people. So the job situation. Many people will not have the job that they did before. That's going to hurt them. That hurts the economy. The landlord is another factor. So maybe we've got a particular mall. They are now not able to bring in as much of that rent as they did before. All of this, of course, is connected to debt. And in many cases, it'll be something like a real estate investment trust. All of these people feel the brunt of what's happening. There's a lot of money in these REITs, and I don't think 95+% of retail investors have figured out what goes into this. All they're thinking is that, well, their businesses, let's say Sears, they're affected. Who cares? They haven't even stopped to think about this, as we just did 60 seconds, and realize, wait a second, if a mall is starting to come down, that's going to have an impact on the economy as a whole. That's not good. I had referenced this in a previous video, but just wanted to touch on it again because it leads me into the next point. The length of almost 2 football fields, the cargo ship Jupiter Spirit arrived in LA Harbor on April 24th after an almost 3-week journey from Japan, ready to unload its cargo of about 2,000 Nissan Armada SUVs, road crossovers, and Infiniti sedans in a quick half-day operation. But when they got there, Captain was ordered to drop anchor. The ship remained for almost a week, a floating symbol of an unprecedented logjam as nearby storage lots covering hundreds of acres overflowed with vehicles that Americans suddenly have little desire to purchase. Dealers aren't really accepting cars, and fleet sales are down because rental car and fleet operators aren't taking deliveries either. This is a major factor for this particular sector, but of course it extends out into so many others. Hertz files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Big news, a 100-year-old company. Who knows where it'll be in the coming years? As always, I show you directly from the source. You can see Hertz's own website. They put the press release out, and you can see the Chapter 11 reorganization, as they like to call it. They are just one example of many that we'll see in the coming weeks. This is from their document when they're filing for bankruptcy. I just wanted to show you a couple names on here. Carl Icahn. By the way, these are the companies or people that own, control, or hold 5% or more of the voting securities. Vanguard, BlackRock on here as well. So they've got a lot at stake, and I just thought that would be important to share with you. Nissan is looking to cut over 20,000 jobs. That's about 15% of its global workforce. Now, you got to think about what has happened 2019 in this particular industry. I showed you that it was just company after company after company, all listing the amount of jobs that they were cutting. I looked at the numbers. I think it was third quarter numbers. I gotta get this down packed, but it was 77,000 jobs cut in 2019, and I believe that only covered the first 3 quarters. This is huge because we're talking about one particular industry, and that was before all of this happened. You're going to double that, you're going to triple that. It wouldn't surprise me to see that level of devastation. This was an article from a few weeks ago, but I just wanted to show you when this individual, we're talking about Fink from BlackRock, the top dog, delivers grim outlook with tax hikes for corporate America, talking about bankruptcies. And this is it. When you have somebody here warning, you're going to see a lot of bankruptcies, just so you know. Everybody should be paying attention. But instead, that's ignored because people are simply looking for where is the bottom. Stocks have come down, and now I have to decide, is this the bottom? Should I buy in? I'm I'm not going to worry about the bankruptcies. That doesn't affect me. I'm not affected by that. I need to focus on this. Where's the bottom? Instead, if you were just spending a few minutes every single day to learn about what's happening in the economy, the engine, you would understand what's happening with your situation. That's your personal situation, and of course, what's going to happen in the markets. Although the two have been largely disconnected, this always reverts to the mean. And that could be that the economy suddenly skyrockets, or it could be that we have a downward trend in stocks. I'm not sure how this is going to evolve, but certainly things are the most out of whack that we have ever seen in history. I want you to take a look at this site. It's called Eurocontrol, and they offer this information showing you the air traffic that was back in April 18th, 2019. And if I put my mouse over it, I'm going to be able to change this to 1 year later, April 16th, 2020. And isn't it interesting how different 1 year can really make? If you see, it's buzzing. There's so many lights here back in 2019, and things really look different. If I move the mouse around, it just gives you an idea how much has changed. This is one industry, of course, the airlines, that has been affected primarily. There's been a direct hit, but think about all the businesses that have been moving cargo or moving people from one place to another, how this affects tourism and so many different industries that are related to this. So if you want to check that out, either go to the link in the description, or you can see that there is a, just go to search engine Eurocontrol and you'll find it. This is yet another business that is going under. I just want to show you that this is affecting the shipping industry. All different types of freight are down significantly. US trucking giant Comcar files for bankruptcy. There's a lot going on today, and unfortunately, I've said it many times here in this video and many times in other videos, investors should really be paying attention. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you're supporting me by clicking one button. You support me. That's all. Thank you very much. If you want to get the information that I talk about here on this channel in a different format, I'm doing stuff on Twitter and Instagram. Check me out at The Money GPS. Do you want to learn how to sell online, but you don't want to pay $1,000 or $2,000 for a course? I've got information that you need to see. It's available at the AmazonGPS.com. The financial system is confusing and it's convoluted, but if you read these two books, you're going to get everything you need to know in simple terms. Check it out at the link in the description if you want the audiobook, themoneygps.com. This video is really, really important, and unfortunately, few have seen it. If you haven't got a chance, definitely watch it. Click on it. I'll see you there.